Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted more than your own family? I gave my best friend everything, loyalty, support, even helped him get his foot in the door, and he still stabbed me in the back just to get ahead. But he had no idea I was about to take everything from him. My name's Ryan, and this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about revenge, the kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it and hits harder than karma ever could. It started 2 years ago when I landed my first real job out of college, junior brand strategist at a growing media company called Peakwave. The job was a dream. Big-name clients, free coffee, modern downtown office, and a boss who actually encouraged creativity. I had been grinding for this opportunity since sophomore year, building my portfolio, networking, and pulling all-nighters just to stay ahead. But I didn't get here alone. I had my best friend Connor beside me. We were roommates in college, studied the same major, even had the same intern gigs. We were tight, or so I thought. When I got the Peakwave offer, Connor didn't. He congratulated me and said, "You deserve it, man." But I could feel something underneath. I brushed it off, thinking it was just jealousy, something that would fade. I even pulled strings to get him a freelance opportunity with our client-facing media team. I introduced him to my manager, helped clean up his resume, and vouched for him during his trial week. At first, everything seemed great. He'd message me, saying how grateful he was, how he couldn't believe he was finally getting his break. I felt proud, like I brought my best friend up with me. But the more he got comfortable, the more things started to shift. He began dropping hints in meetings like he knew more than he did, taking credit for ideas I'd casually shared with him during late-night brainstorms. When our team won a pitch to a major beverage company, I noticed my name left off the internal shout-out email, replaced with his. I didn't want to believe it. Not Connor. I figured maybe it was a mistake or someone just mixed up contributions. I confronted him gently, and he laughed it off like I was being paranoid. "Relax, bro. We're on the same team," he said. But then the whispering started. Quiet convos between Connor and upper management when I walked by, shared documents suddenly getting edited without my knowledge, and subtle jabs during team huddles that painted me as sloppy or unprepared. The worst came during a quarterly performance review. My manager sat me down and said, "Ryan, we've noticed a dip in your consistency. Your last few project submissions were missing key elements." I was floored. Those weren't my mistakes. Those were the files Connor had been tweaking behind my back, deliberately changing layouts, removing tags, messing with color grades. But I couldn't prove it. Not yet. I tried to speak up, but it came off like I was blaming someone else for my failures. The seed had already been planted. 1 week later, I was let go. The official reason? Inconsistent performance and workflow misalignment. I packed up my desk while Connor stood there pretending to be shocked. "I don't know what happened, man," he said, putting a hand on my shoulder like some twisted version of comfort. "But maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe it's time to try something new." I wanted to punch him. Instead, I smiled. I knew then that he wasn't just fake. He was calculated. He wanted me gone. He took the spot I'd earned, stepped into the limelight I'd built, and assumed no one would ever find out. But he underestimated me. Badly. I didn't crawl into a hole or disappear like he hoped. Instead, I started from scratch. I rebuilt my portfolio, freelanced under a pseudonym, and joined small projects that paid next to nothing just to stay sharp. I created an alias, RJ, and started uploading my best concept work anonymously on LinkedIn and Behance. Within 6 months, a recruiter from a global ad agency, Cairo Media, reached out to RJ for a creative role. They had just landed a massive campaign for a tech giant and were looking for someone fresh, bold, and different. I got the interview. I didn't tell anyone, not even family. I walked into that glass tower in Manhattan wearing a suit that barely fit and nerves that almost killed me. But when I opened my mouth, something clicked. I pitched, I presented, I wowed them. And they offered me the job. Full-time. Creative lead. With a starting salary almost double what Peakwave ever gave me. But the best part? The moment I saw the upcoming onboarding documents, I noticed something wild. One of the external vendors I'd be collaborating with was none other than Peakwave. And guess who had just been promoted there to lead strategist for a partnership rollout? Connor. He had no clue I was the guy behind RJ, the new talent Cairo had recruited to work on the same campaign. And from where I stood, I had 2 choices: reveal myself immediately and call him out, or play the long game. I chose the second. Because taking a dream job is one thing, but watching someone realize you took it from right under them, that's next level. Connor had no idea what was coming, and I wasn't about to let him off easy. I'd been humiliated, tossed aside, and made to start from zero because of him, and now I was in the perfect position to expose everything he had done while watching him choke on the very success he stole from me. Because the moment I joined Cairo Media, everything started moving fast. The campaign we were launching was for a massive product rollout from a Silicon Valley tech giant, a wearable AI companion called Helix. And it was supposed to be the boldest creative campaign the industry had seen in years, merging lifestyle branding with futuristic storytelling. And guess who Cairo had just selected to handle the visual brand arc, rollout timeline, and integrated partner collaborations? Me. Or rather, RJ. Connor's team at Peakwave was assigned to provide cross-platform content and digital placement assets, which meant I would be sitting in meetings with him regularly. Only he didn't recognize me, because at Cairo, I didn't use the name Ryan. My tag and credentials were still RJ, my camera was off in every early strategy call, and all my documents were branded under my creative alias. And when we finally had our first joint Zoom call, I didn't speak much, but I watched him, saw how cocky he looked, how he bragged about Peakwave's new creative process, and even tried to take early credit for ideas I had proposed weeks before via email under my RJ account. And it was deliciously ironic. The same snake who got me fired was now unknowingly pitching my own concepts back to me like he'd invented them, and Cairo's execs weren't buying it. One of them even messaged me privately during the call saying, "This Peakwave guy seems like a lot of hot air. Appreciate your clear structure in the prep deck." And I realized then that I wasn't just getting even. I was winning, because I was taking over the very territory Connor thought he'd secured, and he was too blind to see the knife already twisting. But I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. I made sure to slowly increase my visibility. One meeting I'd leave my mic on. Another time I'd have my initials show up on shared workspaces, and bit by bit, I let my voice slip through, let my real name echo faintly in the background, just enough for him to question what he was hearing, but not enough to confirm it. And I knew it was working because a week later, he emailed one of the Cairo assistants asking if RJ was short for Ryan Jeson, and if I had ever interned at Peakwave. But the assistant, loyal to our team and completely oblivious to our history, just forwarded it to me with a shrug emoji, and I replied with, "Must be a common name, haha." Keeping the suspense just a little longer, then came the golden opportunity. Peakwave was scheduled to present their final round of ad placements for Helix's Phase 1 rollout at a joint summit between Cairo and the tech giant, a live-streamed event with press, investors, and the full marketing division watching in real time. And I was asked to be the opening speaker to talk about creative vision and campaign storyboarding, which meant I would be introduced on stage as Ryan Jeson, lead creative, Cairo Media. And I knew that would be the moment the mask would come off and Connor's carefully crafted image would begin to implode. So I didn't just prepare a regular presentation. I made it personal, loading the deck with slides that contained Easter eggs from our old college projects, color schemes from the portfolio work he stole, and even a reworked logo from the freelance gig I'd helped him land back at Peakwave. All subtle enough that no one else would notice, but blatant enough that he would know. He would feel it. And when I stepped onto that stage, dressed sharp, confident, and introduced with applause, I watched his face from the front row of the auditorium and saw his entire expression freeze, his jaw twitch, and his eyes widen like he was seeing a ghost. Because for him, I might as well have been, and I launched into the presentation without flinching, detailing the creative inspiration behind the campaign and directly referencing a series of difficult personal lessons that fueled this vision. And while the audience clapped, Connor looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. And then I hit him with the final blow. I credited a betrayal from a former colleague as my biggest creative motivator, and even flashed a slide that showed side-by-side images of a project he'd taken credit for next to my original design, now refined and fully realized. And while everyone else saw it as an artistic evolution, he knew what it was, a dagger to his ego, a mirror showing him the truth. And by the time the event ended, he was already gone, skipped the Peakwave after-hours social, and went silent on Slack for days. And the fallout came quick. Cairo, now suspicious, ran an informal audit on Peakwave's contributions, found inconsistencies in timelines, reused templates, and discrepancies in creative credits, and Connor, once again, couldn't explain them without implicating himself. Because if he admitted those ideas weren't his, he'd have to say whose they were. And when I got the email from a Peakwave staffer saying so you were RJ all along. Wow, he's done for. I knew I had done what I set out to do. Not just take his dream job, but dismantle the throne he built from my bones. And with phase 2 of the campaign coming up, Cairo decided to move all creative responsibilities in-house, cutting Peakwave out completely, which meant Connor not only lost face. He lost the biggest client they'd had in 2 years, and from what I heard later, he was demoted, then quietly let go under the guise of strategic restructuring. And as for me, I stayed silent, never gloated, never reached out, because I didn't need to. My success spoke loud enough, and the silence I left in my wake said the rest. You'd think after all that, I'd feel satisfied, that watching Connor's career crash and burn would be enough. But revenge is layers, and the deeper the betrayal, the more precise the justice has to be. And while phase 2 of the Helix campaign surged forward under my creative lead, I kept hearing whispers from former Peakwave contacts who'd quietly reached out to congratulate me. And every message peeled back more layers of what Connor had done while I wasn't looking. Apparently, I hadn't been his only victim, just the most useful one. Because once I was gone, he began climbing off the backs of anyone who got in his way, throwing interns under the bus, claiming solo credit for collaborative wins, even sabotaging new hires who posed a threat. And the only reason he lasted as long as he did was because of the temporary shine that came from my stolen ideas. But when that glow wore off, he had nothing original left, no talent to fall back on. And the execs started noticing fast, and after the Cairo contract was severed, Connor tried to pivot, applying for creative director roles across the city, including, get this, a position on my own team at Cairo, thinking maybe I wouldn't see the application come through since I was still using RJ for external branding. But I did see it, and I let it sit in the candidate pool for 2 weeks before forwarding it directly to our HR manager with a single note. Conflict of interest. Candidate has a history of unethical behavior with current staff, and that alone was enough to blacklist him from our hiring pipeline. But I wasn't done. Remember how I had started uploading my portfolio anonymously, using RJ as my alias? Well, it had grown into something bigger, something I never expected. Brands started tagging RJ in design contests. Podcast hosts invited RJ to speak on creativity and resilience. And people began treating RJ as an inspirational figure in the digital marketing space. So I did something wild. I fully launched a personal brand around it, revealing in a viral post that RJ stood for Ryan Jeson, a creative who bounced back after a mysterious workplace betrayal. And the story caught fire. Comments, DMs, interviews flooded in, and without naming names, I outlined how I rebuilt myself from the ground up after being sabotaged by someone I trusted, and people related to it, loved it, and even began sharing their own revenge-fueled redemption arcs. And one day, about a month after the Helix campaign ended, I got a message request on LinkedIn from Connor, the first direct communication since he got me fired. And it was short, awkward, clearly typed out through gritted teeth. Didn't realize RJ was you. Guess it all worked out for you in the end. No hard feelings. Take care. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because there was nothing left to say. He got what he wanted at my expense, and I got it all back and more by being smarter, quieter, and way more patient than he ever gave me credit for. And since then, my life has only leveled up. Cairo offered me a leadership role overseeing all North American campaigns. I moved into a sleek loft downtown, signed a deal to co-author a book on rebuilding your life after betrayal. And RJ became more than a nickname. It became a symbol, a reminder that being underestimated is the greatest advantage anyone can have. Because when they think you're done, when they think they've beaten you, that's when you rise and strike where it hurts most. Not with noise, but with silence. Not with chaos, but with success. And maybe the best part of all was knowing that Connor now had to watch me soar in the very sky he tried to keep me out of. Knowing full well that the job he thought he stole had been reclaimed by the person he betrayed. And every headline, every ad, every interview that mentioned RJ, those were reminders etched into his screen, echoing my triumph and his downfall. And to anyone out there dealing with a snake in their circle, Remember this: the best revenge isn't rage, it's reinvention, and sometimes, the higher you rise, the louder your silence screams. And hey, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button, because we've got more epic revenge tales coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.